In a dramatic proclamation that's sending shockwaves through online prophecy circles, a pastor recently claimed that a demonic ship tied to 3i Atlas is headed toward Earth. He warns that this vessel is not of this world, a supernatural harbinger of chaos with spiritual forces aboard. In this video, we'll unpack the pastor's warnings, trace the origins of the 3i Atlas narrative, examine reactions from believers and critics, and ask, what might this all mean? Spiritually, symbolically, or otherwise? It began with a trembling voice captured on a live stream, a pastor standing before his congregation, eyes burning with conviction, warning that something unimaginable was on its way. He claimed he'd been shown a vision of a great ship travelling through the heavens, carrying with it not human explorers or celestial wonders, but demonic entities disguised as light. He said its name had been revealed to him in prayer, 3i Atlas. To his followers, it wasn't just a name, it was a sign, a message from the spiritual realm that something catastrophic, something ancient was approaching Earth. He described this ship not as a physical object of steel and light, but as a spiritual construct, a vessel of deception. They will call it a comet, he warned, or a passing body from another world. But what it truly carries is not of flesh and blood. It carries the fallen spirits, those who are bound since before time. His words struck deep into the hearts of his listeners, echoing a pattern of apocalyptic sermons that have recurred throughout history. Some wept. Others felt awe as though witnessing prophecy being fulfilled in real time. He insisted that this was not mere speculation but divine revelation, a cosmic warning ignored at humanity's peril. To him, 3i Atlas wasn't just a strange name given to an astronomical object, it was a coded message. 3i, he said, referred to the third incursion of dark forces into the human world, a cycle that repeats across ages whenever humanity turns too far from God. Atlas, meanwhile, symbolized the being condemned to carry the heavens on his shoulders, a fallen titan punished for rebellion. The pastor's interpretation tied ancient mythology to modern astronomy, merging theology, mysticism, and celestial observation into a single electrifying prophecy. But it wasn't only the symbolism that frightened people, it was the timing. The pastor claimed that unusual celestial events, strange lights in the night sky, and unexplained signals captured by observatories were not coincidences, they were omens, heralding the approach of this so-called demonic ship. He referenced passages from the Book of Revelation, Ezekiel's visions of wheels within wheels, and even the Nephilim, claiming the ship carried entities seeking to reclaim their dominion over the earth. To the faithful, this was validation. To skeptics, it was delusion. Yet the message spread rapidly, shared on social media, dissected in online forums, and echoed in countless short videos across the internet. The pastor's warning touched something primal: fear of the unknown, fascination with cosmic mysteries, and the unshakable human instinct that we're not alone in the universe. His sermon was not just about the arrival of a ship, it was about the spiritual condition of humanity. He argued that this arrival symbolized the growing darkness in human hearts, the rise of moral decay, the rejection of faith, the technological pride that believes humanity can play God. The ship was not just coming from the sky, it was already arriving through us. Every act of cruelty, every manipulation of truth, every surrender to spiritual numbness was, in his words, another door open to the invaders. In the days following his revelation, the idea of 3i Atlas took on a life of its own. Internet users began to search for the term, discovering that it actually refers to an interstellar object, C/2019 U6 Atlas, a comet identified by astronomers years ago, and 3i Atlas, an interstellar visitor believed to be passing through our solar system. The overlap between scientific observation and prophetic language was enough to ignite a wildfire of theories. Could this be the same ship the pastor had seen in his vision? Was it merely coincidence, or something far deeper than chance could explain? From that point forward, the origins and symbols surrounding 3i Atlas became the heart of the mystery. Astronomers describe it as a faint interstellar object, perhaps a fragment of a larger body, drifting through the cosmos after being torn apart millions of years ago. It entered our solar system silently, following a trajectory no known comet shares. For scientists, it was a rare visitor. For mystics, it was a messenger. Across online prophecy forums, users began connecting the dots. suggesting that Three-Eye Atlas might not be a natural phenomenon, but an engineered vessel cloaked in celestial disguise. The number and naming seemed too symbolic to ignore. 3-eye, some argued, could mean third interstellar, but others saw deeper meaning. 3 eyes, representing the trinity of sight, physical, spiritual and divine. Others said it symbolized the third invasion, a continuation of the apocalyptic sequence following 1-Oumuamua and 2-Borisov, the 2 interstellar visitors that preceded it. To believers, these weren't just random rocks from another system. They were the 3 heralds, each one closer and more ominous than the last. The arrival of 3-Eye Atlas, then, would mark a final threshold, a gateway event connecting the heavens to Earth's unfolding spiritual war. Atlas itself added another layer of intrigue. In mythology, Atlas was a titan condemned to bear the weight of the heavens, a figure of both strength and eternal punishment. To many, the comet's name evoked a grim warning that the burden of human sin, pride and disobedience was once again tipping the balance of the cosmos. The pastor's followers claimed that the ship named Atlas was carrying the sky itself, a poetic way of saying that what it bears is the collective energy of fallen spirits long sealed beyond the stars. Others noted that the Atlas telescope system, automated terrestrial, lunar and asteroid survey, is the very network that discovered the comet. For them, this was prophetic irony. The system designed to protect Earth from danger was the one that revealed the coming of something otherworldly. It felt as if the heavens were mocking human arrogance, allowing technology to glimpse what it could never truly understand. And so, the story of 3-Eye Atlas transcended its scientific roots and entered the mythic dimension, a meeting point between astronomy and apocalypse. Whether one views it as divine revelation, mass hysteria, or poetic coincidence, the narrative taps into humanity's oldest fear, that something vast and sentient watches us from the dark, waiting for the right moment to return. The reaction to the pastor's warning about 3-Eye Atlas was nothing short of explosive. Within hours of his sermon going viral, the internet erupted with a storm of speculation, ridicule and awe. Some viewers claimed they felt chills run through their bodies as he spoke, as if the very air vibrated with an unseen presence. Others dismissed it as yet another doomsday rant, a familiar tune in the age of viral prophecy. But what no one could deny was that something about this message hit differently. It wasn't just about a comet or an asteroid. It was about the growing sense that the world itself was teetering on the edge of something unseen, something spiritual. On social media, the name 3-Eye Atlas began trending, half meme, half mystery. People stitched the pastor's sermon into eerie TikToks, overlaying his trembling voice with clips of NASA's telescopic footage and ambient apocalyptic music. Reddit threads lit up with discussions trying to decode the name. Was it symbolic, technological, or truly prophetic? What if it's not a ship, one user posted, but a signal, a transmission from another dimension disguised as light? Others quickly replied with Bible verses, linking the object to passages in Revelation describing stars falling to Earth and the release of imprisoned spirits from the abyss. Meanwhile, Christian prophecy forums began to fracture into 2 camps. The first took the pastor's message at face value. They believed that 3-Eye Atlas was no mere rock drifting through the void, but the physical manifestation of a spiritual invasion, a ship constructed of energy, cloaked in debris, carrying beings that existed before the world began. They referenced ancient texts, from the Book of Enoch to the Nag Hammadi scriptures, claiming these writings had long foretold of celestial vessels that would appear near the end of days. The Watchers are returning, one post declared, gaining tens of thousands of shares. The second camp was more skeptical, yet still intrigued. They argued that the pastor's warning might not be literal, but metaphorical, a divine vision warning humanity about moral decay, disguised as a cosmic event. To them, 3-Eye Atlas symbolized humanity's blindness, the 3 eyes being the body, mind, and soul, all now clouded by greed and pride. The ship, then, was not descending from space, but rising from within the collective human spirit. The demonic ship, one theologian wrote online, is not coming for us. It's being built by us, every time we choose evil over truth. But outside of religious circles, the story took on a different life. Scientists and skeptics stepped in, eager to debunk what they saw as superstition dressed in cosmic poetry. Astronomers explained that 3-Eye Atlas, officially known as 3I/ATLAS, was nothing more than an interstellar object, possibly a fragment from another solar system. They described its size, its trajectory, and how faint it appeared even through advanced telescopes. Yet, even these rational explanations did little to stop the growing fascination. The more the experts denied the supernatural element, the more believers felt validated. Of course they'd say that, one user commented on an astronomy video. They said the same thing about Oumuamua, and even they couldn't explain its behaviour. Conspiracy theorists joined the fray, blending the pastor's message with elements of UFO lore and government secrecy. Some claim NASA was withholding information about 3I Atlas, that it was actually moving in a pattern inconsistent with natural motion. Others alleged that the object's arrival coincided with secret satellite launches, strange atmospheric sounds and anomalous energy readings reported near observatories. YouTube channels began producing documentaries with titles like The Demon Comet They Don't Want You to See and 3I Atlas, the ship from beyond the veil. For some, it became more than a theory. It became a movement. Online prayer groups formed to prepare the spirit for the coming event. They shared fasting schedules, protection prayers, and calls to repentance, believing the arrival of 3I Atlas would mark the opening of a spiritual gate between realms. Others began reporting dreams and visions, claiming to see burning ships in the sky or hear low humming sounds at night. Whether psychological or supernatural, these experiences deepened the conviction that something real was happening. Not everyone believed, of course. Many mocked the pastor openly, calling him a fearmonger, exploiting cosmic coincidence. Memes circulated depicting a cartoon spaceship labelled 3I Atlas, shooting beams of light shaped like Bible verses. Even mainstream media outlets joined in, writing articles that oscillated between skepticism and sensationalism. They quoted both scientists and preachers, letting readers decide for themselves whether the phenomenon was divine, demonic, or simply delusional. Yet buried beneath the noise, a quieter, more thoughtful reaction emerged, one that saw in the story of 3I Atlas a mirror for our time. People began to reflect on why such warnings resonate so deeply. In a world saturated with uncertainty, pandemics, wars, climate change, and social unrest, perhaps the idea of a demonic ship felt less absurd and more metaphorically true. The fear that something dark is drawing near, that forces beyond comprehension are influencing human behaviour, feels almost intuitive in an age of chaos. Even those who laughed at the prophecy couldn't entirely dismiss it. There was something hauntingly poetic about the image, a ghostly vessel drifting silently through the cosmos, its purpose unknown, its arrival inevitable. Whether seen as myth, metaphor, or mystery, 3I Atlas became a symbol of everything humanity both fears and cannot understand. The vastness of space, the fragility of faith, and the eternal question of whether something, or someone, is watching from beyond the stars. Beneath all the noise, the memes, the fiery debates, and the mockery, a deeper question began to emerge. What if 3I Atlas wasn't meant to be taken literally at all? What if this so-called demonic ship was a symbol, a vision not of outer space but of inner space? The pastor's words, though wrapped in the language of apocalypse, might have carried a message about the spiritual condition of the modern world. And to many who listened closely, that message was clear. The real invasion was not descending from the heavens, but rising from within the human soul. When people looked up at 3I Atlas, they saw their fears reflected back at them. Not just the fear of celestial danger, but the fear that something sacred had been lost. The pastor spoke of the ship carrying demonic entities, but perhaps those entities were the invisible forces already possessing humanity. Addiction to technology, worship of self, greed disguised as freedom, and spiritual numbness masquerading as progress. It was easier to imagine demons riding on a comet than to confront the demons thriving within our own hearts. Across online discussions and church gatherings, a quieter movement of interpretation began forming. Some spiritual teachers argued that 3I Atlas represented the collective shadow of mankind, a cosmic mirror reflecting all the darkness we have refused to acknowledge. The 3 eyes symbolize 3 levels of perception: physical sight, intellectual understanding, and spiritual vision. Humanity, they claimed, has become blind in the 3rd eye. Unable to see truth beyond the illusion of materialism, the ship therefore wasn't approaching us from outer space, It was emerging from our blindness. It was the product of our own unbalanced vision. Philosophers and mystics drew parallels between the pastor's prophecy and the ancient concept of Maya, the illusion that veils true reality. In every age, humanity creates its own monsters, projecting inner chaos onto the heavens. The Babylonians saw omens in eclipses. Medieval prophets saw devils in comets. Modern people see spacecraft and interstellar visitors. The pattern is the same. Whenever civilization loses its spiritual grounding, it begins to populate the cosmos with its own shadows. 3i Atlas became the newest incarnation of that archetype, a spiritual Rorschach test for the collective unconscious. But even if symbolic, the warning still carried weight. For those who believed the pastor's vision was a divine message, the interpretation didn't matter as much as the urgency. The world, they argued, was already showing signs of possession, moral decay, confusion and conflict. People no longer knew what was true or false, good or evil. Technology had blurred the boundary between human and machine. Artificial intelligence spoke with the voice of God, while humanity listened with the faith of a child. In that context, the idea of a demonic ship approaching from the stars was almost comforting. It gave form to the formless anxiety that defines modern existence. Others saw it differently still. To them, 3i Atlas represented the third revelation, the point at which humanity would be forced to awaken spiritually or collapse into chaos. The ship, they said, was the vessel of truth disguised as terror. It was not coming to destroy humanity but to expose it. The demonic imagery was merely the reflection of our fear of transformation. Just as light blinds those who have lived too long in darkness, divine truth often feels like destruction before it feels like rebirth. This interpretation spread through esoteric circles, gaining traction among those who combined religious prophecy with metaphysical teachings. They claimed that the pastor's vision was genuine, not as a literal invasion, but as a download, a message from higher consciousness translated through the only symbols his mind could understand: war, demons, ships, and fire. In this view, 3i Atlas was the harbinger of awakening, the final sign that humanity was approaching a threshold between worlds, not heaven and hell, but ignorance and awareness. And yet there was an undeniable danger in such interpretations. Many spiritual leaders warned that human beings have a long history of mistaking symbols for reality. When myth hardens into dogma, people act out the very fears they claim to resist. They persecute, they divide, they destroy, all in the name of defending themselves from imaginary enemies. The pastor's followers might have been sincere, but their growing obsession with 3i Atlas risked turning prophecy into paranoia. If every light in the sky became a demon, if every new idea became deception, then fear itself would be the only god left to worship. One priest wrote in a reflection that went viral online, "Perhaps the true demonic force is not a ship above us, but the despair within us, the voice that tells us we are doomed, unloved, and powerless. That is the whisper that keeps humanity in chains." His message resonated deeply with both believers and skeptics alike. For all the chaos surrounding the story of 3i Atlas, it had, in a strange way, united people. Not in fear of the stars, but in reflection of their own souls. Others, however, took a darker view. They warned that symbolism should not blind us to the possibility of the literal. Ancient scriptures and mystical traditions often described supernatural events using poetic language, and what seemed allegorical to one age could be literal truth to another. The unseen realm is real, one preacher insisted in a viral video. If you think demons cannot manifest through the physical, you underestimate the depth of their power. To him, 3i Atlas was not metaphorical. It was an intelligent presence, a spiritual machine that would soon cross the boundary between the material and the immaterial. As debates intensified, lines between faith, philosophy, and science blurred. Astrophysicists, psychologists, theologians, and mystics all spoke of 3i Atlas in their own languages, the physical, the symbolic, and the spiritual. But in each explanation, a single truth seemed to echo through the noise, that humanity stands before something vast, mysterious, and deeply transformative. Whether the ship is real or not, the shift it represents has already begun. Perhaps that is the real secret of 3i Atlas. It does not need to crash into Earth to change humanity. It already has. It has entered our minds, our conversations, our fears. It has revealed how quickly people will believe how easily others will mock, and how deeply all of us crave meaning in the face of the unknown. The pastor's prophecy may or may not come true in the way he imagined, but in a deeper sense, his warning has already been fulfilled. The demonic ship has arrived, not from the cold dark of space, but from within the storm of the human heart. As the story of Three-Eye Atlas spread across the world, what began as a warning turned into something much larger, a reflection of how people respond to mystery, fear, and the possibility of the unknown. For every believer convinced that a demonic ship was on its way, there were countless others who asked, "What should we do? How should we prepare?" Some sought physical answers, stocking up supplies, watching the skies, even searching astronomical charts for coordinates that might hint at the object's location. But others, particularly those who looked at the message through a spiritual lens, began to realize that the real preparation had nothing to do with telescopes or bunkers. It had to do with the soul. The pastor himself, after days of interviews and viral fame, released another sermon, quieter, more measured, and far more introspective. He admitted that even he didn't know whether Three-Eye Atlas was a literal ship or a divine metaphor. What he knew for certain was that its message was clear. Humanity was being called to wake up. He urged people to stop waiting for a sign in the heavens and start confronting the corruption within. If the ship comes, he said, it will find only what already exists in our hearts. If we are filled with fear, it will bring fear. If we are filled with faith, it will bring truth. That statement struck something deep. People began to reinterpret his prophecy not as a countdown to destruction, but as a call for transformation. The demonic ship became a symbol of inner testing, a cosmic mirror reflecting the moral and spiritual state of the human race. In this new light, the arrival of Three-Eye Atlas was not an external event to be feared, but an invitation to evolve. Humanity, they said, was standing at the edge of a great threshold, and the true danger wasn't in the sky, it was in choosing apathy over awakening. Still, the uncertainty lingered. The question of what to watch for haunted believers and skeptics alike. Some pointed to the skies, noting that in recent months, reports of strange lights, meteor trails, and unidentified aerial phenomena had increased. Was this coincidence, or was something indeed approaching? Scientists assured the public that Three-Eye Atlas was on a harmless trajectory, passing through the outer solar system, far beyond any possibility of contact. Yet for many that reassurance felt hollow. The spiritual unease couldn't be measured by distance or velocity. It was a disturbance not of the cosmos, but of the collective psyche. Online communities began forming around the idea of discernment, how to tell true prophecy from falsehood. Pastors, philosophers, and spiritual mentors reminded people that the world has always been full of self-proclaimed messengers and visionaries. Not every dream is divine, one priest warned. Sometimes it's our own fear speaking through the language of revelation. Yet he added that dismissing everything as superstition was just as dangerous as believing everything without question. The real path, he said, lay in balance, in the humility to listen, but also the wisdom to test. In ancient scripture, the call for discernment appears again and again. Test the spirits, whether they are from God. Those who clung to this principle began to interpret Three-Eye Atlas as a kind of spiritual test for the modern age. Would humanity surrender to hysteria and paranoia, or would it seek understanding? Would it divide itself between believers and skeptics, or recognize that both faith and reason are needed to navigate a mystery of this magnitude? The true battle, they argued, was not between light and darkness in the heavens, but between clarity and confusion within the human heart. As days turned into weeks, more people began to reflect on how easily fear could become a form of worship. Endless scrolling through videos, predictions, and evidence became its own kind of ritual, a digital form of anxiety disguised as vigilance. The demonic ship, some realized, had already found a way to possess the masses, through screens, through obsession, through the subtle seduction of fear itself. In an age where attention is currency, what better tool for darkness than a prophecy that keeps humanity staring upward, waiting instead of looking inward? Others, however, saw hope in the story. The idea of Three-Eye Atlas reignited a sense of wonder that had long been missing from modern life. For decades, humanity had gazed at the stars through the cold lens of science, measuring, calculating, categorizing. But now, for the first time in years, people were looking at the sky not as an empty void, but as a realm of mystery again. Children asked their parents about comets. Adults rediscovered the forgotten beauty of the night. In that way, even if born from fear, the story of Three-Eye Atlas rekindled something sacred. Awe. And perhaps that too was part of the prophecy. Every era has its apocalyptic vision, a comet, a flood, a sign in the sky. And each one, whether literal or symbolic, serves the same purpose: to remind humanity of its place in the grand tapestry of existence. The pastor's warning may have sounded terrifying, but hidden within it was a seed of hope. He wasn't just saying the end is near, he was saying, wake up before it's too late. You are becoming what you fear. In time, the hysteria faded. The hashtag slowed down, the videos lost traction, and news outlets moved on to fresher stories. Yet, the phrase Three-Eye Atlas never fully disappeared. It lingered in the corners of conversation, whispered in podcasts, analysed in books, referenced in late-night discussions about faith and fate. For some, it remained a joke. For others, a memory of the time the world briefly stared into the unknown and felt something stir. But for a smaller, quieter group, it became a lifelong reminder that no matter how advanced we become, the spiritual dimension of existence will always demand our attention. Because the truth is, the ship never needed to arrive. It already had. Every act of cruelty, every lie disguised as truth, every heart that turns cold under the weight of the modern life, these are its landings. Every person who chooses kindness, truth, or faith, those are the counterforces that push it back into the dark. The battle isn't out there among the stars, it's right here in every human decision. And so the story of Three-Eye Atlas closes not with destruction, but with reflection. Whether one believes in demonic ships, cosmic omens, or simply the poetry of the unseen, the message remains the same. Be watchful, but not afraid. The heavens may send signs, but the meaning of those signs is born in us. The light and darkness we perceive in the universe are merely reflections of the light and darkness we nurture within. In the end, the pastor's final words may have captured it best. Do not fear the ship in the sky. Fear the silence of your own soul when it stops seeking truth. And with that, the legend of Three-Eye Atlas transformed from a prophecy of doom into a parable about awareness, humility, and the eternal struggle to see beyond the illusions of the world.